Hey everyone, how goes it? Welcome back to Computer Science 552 Game Development. I'm your instructor, Dr. JJ Shepard, and today we're going to continue going over some of the introductory concepts related to developing a game. We know that the goal of developing most games is to take an idea for a game and bring it to the consumers to play. Creating or producing a game requires an idea to first be designed and then developed. Publishing brings the developed game to the consumer. Today, we focus on further defining what is game design, game development, game production. Oh my! Frequently, the terminology game production, game design, and game development are incorrectly interchanged. Each of these correspond to either a smaller process or the entire process of creating a game. We also have to keep in mind that a process can be defined as a series of actions or operations to reach an end. Our goal of game production is to produce a game. Speaking of which, game production encompasses the entire process of creating a game from an idea. Game design is the process of drawing from an idea to create systems, rules, and outcomes that create the core game concept. Game development is the process of using the game concept to then create the game. Each one has goals and sub-processes involved, and we should understand the differences and relations among these ideas. One way we can best understand the entire process is to view it from the perspective of the different required roles. Typically, there are 4 roles involved in order to create a game. These include the game designer, the programmer, the artist, and the producer. Each role may either have a single person or a team tasked to perform its duties. Collectively, these roles are referred to the development team, or the developers. Let's take a closer look at each one of these roles. The game designer is the person or team who creates the game concept from an idea. They are part of the system designers, which is commonly an entire team. They can be considered the writer or the author of a game. Commonly, the game designer initially creates the game concept document or one-pager from an idea. From there, they create the game design document from the one-pager. The game concept document or one-pager can be considered the game's overview, in brief, or its elevator speech. This does not detail the entire game, but names the game's highlighted features. It is usually only 1 page long, hence the name. And this is enough to get across most of the game concepts. The one-pager details the type of games and its major features. This is why it is important to understand common terminology related to game genres, as it helps the team to understand which features are expected to be in the game. It also relates the new game to existing games on the market. Doing this is important so that it shows that some market research has been done, and it helps determine whether the game would be financially successful. From the one-pager, the game design document, or GDD, is created. This is a long document that details every aspect of the game. It serves as a blueprint for the other roles to create the game. Programmers and artists will use the GDD to work on their parts. It is specific without going into implementation detail. The main idea is to describe the game and what it features, but not go into such detail about what type of data structure in the code or what software needs to be used to create a 3D mesh. It is a balance between being detailed enough without being too detailed. These used to be long documents that mostly were written once and very rarely changed afterwards. However, this has changed significantly over time, and GDDs are most commonly implemented as a wiki. This is so that changes can be made over time and sometimes by other party members. We now move to the next role, the programmer. The programmer is the person or team who structures and writes the game-specific code or game code for the game. They design the overall software structure based on the game design document. Software engineering principles and practices are used here. The programmer implements the game code. This is how they communicate the game concept provided by the game designer to the machines. The programmer frequently tests game code for quality assurance and tracks known bugs. They also create a technical design document, or TDD, from the GDD. The technical design document is typically part of the game design's wiki. The extension of the game design document, the technical design document, details all the elements related to software. Major features, game logic, AI, network details, etc. It identifies the technical challenge and potential solutions. It also details the technology that will be used, which would include programming languages, game engine, equipment, physics engine, third-party software, graphics libraries, AI libraries, and etc. The technical design document identifies all the game objects and components, which are concepts that are explored a little bit later. It names the technical requirements for the game assets. This can include file formats like FBX, MP3, JSONs, and also file specifics like audio bitrate, image dimensions, and whether or not the y-axis is up. The technical design contains a task list. This is arguably one of the most important parts, as it is a detailed list of the programming tasks required. This assists in creating and developing a schedule. The artist is a person or team who creates the look and the feel of the game. They are in charge of generating the game assets, which are visuals, sounds, music, dialogue, etc. These communicate the emotions of the game to the player. Artists have specializations, and usually a team of artists who specialize in different art fields are grouped together. For instance, you have visual artists, musicians, story writers, Foley artists, screenplay writers. All the artists create an art list from the game design document, and this is also part of the game design wiki. Similar to the technical design document and its task list, the art list is a comprehensive list of all the game assets required. This contains a list of visual assets like sprites, 3D meshes, textures, animations. It also contains audio assets like sound effects, music, recorded dialogue, and etc. It also contains story assets like context, story documents, screenplays, plot synopsis, dialogue scripts, character lists. The art list also assists in creating a development schedule. We can see this is the overall concept for game production. But now, applying a few of the different roles, we can see the details involved. We see each of the roles represented along with their respective duties flowing forward. The game concept is designed by the game designer, which typically includes the one-pager and the GDD. From there, it flows forward to the game development, and the concept phase is passed to the lead programmer and lead artist. From there, they focus on the various implementation tasks to take the game from the concept and merge together into the final artifact. Yet, there was another role that was not yet discussed: the producer. The producer is a person or team that oversees the game production process. They are part of the management team. They communicate with all the other roles. The producer keeps everyone on task and the game on track. The producer coordinates with the publishers to bring the game to the consumers. As mentioned, their job is to keep everyone on track and ensure that the game is produced. As mentioned before, some of these roles can be shared by others, and in this case of independent games, the game designer and producer may be the same person. With this in mind, we can once again revisit the process, now adding the role of the producer. In some cases, the producer may not have much of a role in the idea or designing the game concept. However, in other cases, they may work directly with the game designer in brainstorming ideas and formalizing the game concept. While this demonstrates what is common, we must keep in mind that games can be created in a multitude of ways. The producer views the entire process in a slightly different way. Both game design and development are broken into phases. When these phases occur may change from one game to another, but the sequence is mostly the same. The 5 phases of producing a game are concept, pre-production, production, post-production, and the aftermarket operations. When discussing game development, these are most commonly used in terms to refer to the different stages of the process. Detailing each of these phases. In concept, the producer coordinates with the game designer. This is where the major features are detailed. This concept document or one-pager is established. Commonly at this point, the producer presents the concept to the publishers for resources and funding. The concept phase ends when the publisher greenlights the project and provides the resources for pre-production. Within pre-production, this is where planning and team building take place. The game design document is formalized from the game designer. The technical design document is finished from the lead programmer, and the art list is created by the artists. Scheduling, milestones, and deadlines are established to keep the production on schedule. Budgets are calculated figuring in the cost of the team members, technology, and license that are necessary to have. The producer then presents the plan to the publishers, investors, and stakeholders once more for final approval. Pre-production ends when the publishers kick-off greenlight the project and provide the resources mentioned in the other documents to produce the game. In the production phase, the producer coordinates with the programmers and the artists and establishes version control early. This is commonly through Git or some kind of distributed version control system. Frequently, progress reports are collected from the developers. The proof of concept, or first playable, is one of the first major milestones that demonstrate the core features to the publishers. Later, a playable build or demo is created to show more features of the game and is intended to be a small version of the overall experience. Production is the long, expensive part of this process, and the producer needs to ensure that it stays on track and within budget. This is why the producer avoids feature creep. This is when a developer starts adding new, exciting features outside of what was planned during pre-production. While the new features may be nifty, it can slow the process to a crawl. The production phase ends at the deadlines established in the pre-production, or at least hopefully. Once the game has moved past production, it enters post-production, or just post for short. Quality assurance, or QA, begins, which contains a testing plan, a QA database, bug and error priorities, and feature requests. This is also when alpha testing starts. This is the first phase of testing done within the studio. Later, beta testing begins. This next phase of testing is done with potential end users. Later still, working copies of the game are then sent to the ESRB for rating. This phase is over when the game is released. Aftermarket and operations phase finally begins. A post-mortem is sometimes written which details the development process, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Support and maintenance for the game starts, and analytics from user data is collected. Business, sales, and marketing for promotion are created and published. This phase continues as long as the game is on the market. Downloadable content, or DLC, is published during this phase as well. Sunsetting is when the aftermarket operations stop. Looking at this process again, we can now add the way that the producer stages and better organize this to represent each part. We notice that the game concept and the GDD has been expanded beyond just the game designer's role. A good game design document also contains the technical design document and the art list. The game designer comes up with the initial game design document. They then work with the programmers, artists, and producer to finalize the game concept and the GDD. The game designer comes up with the idea. During the concept phase, the game designer and the producer work together to establish the major features found in the one-pager. From here, the producer meets with the publishers, presents the initial idea to get the green light on the project. With the green light, the team moves into the pre-production phase. From there, the game designer is tasked to work on a longer game design document while the producer works on building the rest of the team. Once the team has been established, the producer provides the programmer and the artist with the current game concept via the work-in-progress game design document. We notice in this newer version that the game design document are now spread across both the artist and the programmer's roles. The reason is that the game design document contains the art list and the technical design document. In addition to the programmer and artist, they work with the producer and the game designer to better refine the concept. As mentioned, the programmer creates the technical design document and the artist creates the art list. Using this, the producer is able to create a plan and then a schedule for the production. Also, from this, the producer is able to create a budget, which is important before presenting to the publishers. If the plan is approved, in other words, the developers get the kickoff green light, then they move to the production. This is where version control is established as early as possible. This way, everyone can communicate most effectively about the updates and changes during the production. Shortly after the proof of concept is created to demonstrate to the publishers the core ideas. From there, a more comprehensive demo is created to further demonstrate more of the features of the game. Once this has been completed, the team moves to the post-production phase where quality assurance takes place while keeping track of all the various bugs. Then, alpha testing occurs in-house to ensure the game is working properly. Beta testing then takes place with potential end users, and finally, the game is produced and released. Once the game is created, we now need to get it to the masses. A game publisher is the company in charge of bringing the game to the consumers. It is their job to communicate to the consumers why they should buy the game. Conceptually, we understand that developers make the games, publishers sell the games. The publishers usually are composed of a business team, marketing teams, and legal teams. The publishers provide money and other resources to the developers. They coordinate with the producer regarding the game. They also coordinate with distributors, manufacturers, and retailers for selling the game. Revisiting this concept, we can now add in the producer while also distinguishing the developers. There is a difference between the developers and the publishers as mentioned. Yet, when we look at the overall process, it is always about taking an idea, producing a game, and bringing it to the consumer. Yet, we know that this is not the end of the story, and in fact, there's more details involved. The roles themselves can be further specified. System designers are composed of game designers, level designers, user experience designers, narrative designers. Programmers can be software engineers, gameplay programmers, AI network, graphic engineers, QA technicians. Artists, as mentioned, specialize as either 3D, 2D artists, lighting artists, composers, character designers, animators, UI designers, audio designers, and engineers. The management team involves producers, creative directors, and QA managers. All are just more specialized versions of the roles that were named before. We also know that bringing a game to the consumer may not be the end of development. There is more that occur after the game's release. Modern games are improved over time by routine maintenance. This information is gathered both from end-user comments and further QA. Patching is the process of fixing or altering either the game code or assets to improve the overall game experience. Patching a game can only go so far, and it is not possible to fix every bug. Patching is usually applied to small features. If patching is not enough, then a system overhaul may be necessary. The process can be augmented to also feature the stages after the game. Game version 1.0 is released, and we see the game is improved via patches and other maintenance operations. Support and maintenance continues to work on the core game and improving its features. Modern games are expanded over time by adding additional content. Many games feature downloadable content or DLC that is released after the initial game. The content may feature new gameplay, new assets, expanded features. DLC is initially planned during the game design portion of game development. Development of DLC occurs during the initial production or after the game's release. Looking at the process, we can now add in the concepts of DLC into the overall process. At the same time, in some cases, DLC was planned for when the initial game was being created. Yet, the process is essentially the same. In this lecture, we have looked at the process of producing a game and defined the sub-processes of game design and game development. We have also focused on the different roles required to create a game and provided the associated duties. We have also viewed what happens after a game is released in the way of support maintenance and adding more content via DLC. With all that being said, make sure you know your roles, and I'll speak at you next time. Now it's time for a bonus round. What is game production? The entire process of creating a game from an idea. What is the difference between game design and game development? Game design is about creating a game concept from an idea. Later, game development creates the game using the game concept. What are the 4 major roles in creating a game? Game designer, programmer, artist, and producer. What is the difference between developers and publishers? Developers create the game, and publishers sell the game. What is feature creep? This is when developers add features to a game after it's been designed, and it slows down the overall process.